Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, at this event. This event is being organized jointly by the academic think tank IDEA at CERGE-EI and RSJ Foundation. We'll tell you more about our project at the very end of today's presentation, so I hope you will stay here to the very end. And the program of today is, of course, the keynote lecture by Patrick Gaule. I will introduce in a few seconds for 45 minutes, and we will have questions and answers for about 15 minutes, and then we will have those rather short presentations of our still relatively new project or projects. It's really broader than simple project. And now about our speaker, Patrick. Patrick Gaule is my former colleague here at CERGE-EI. He moved recently, I don't know how many years, to another place at University of Bristol. By his background, the scientific academic background, is labor economist, and he does economics of science and innovation. These are the field. Economics of education and economics of science and innovation is not field being taught here in Czech Republic much. Simply everybody who knows something is an expert. So it's great to have here full expert like Patrick, who is working on these important topics also for Czech Republic. I will not repeat here his various affiliations and contributions. Part of them is posted here. Many other are on the web. I'm sure you can reach very easily. So I want to mention one thing, and it's that he's co-founder of the Global Talent Lab and the Global Talent Network. You will hear more about, I hope, from Patrick. So I will not provide details, which I would confuse. And now, I think that's everything I was asked to present here. And now, Patrick, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot for having me here and for your interest in these topics. Maybe I should start with some apologies. One is, okay, I don't speak Czech, despite having lived in Prague for several years. Another one is a kind of, it's almost a wrong advertisement. So how to encourage and develop mathematically gifted children. Because actually, I think we don't know that much about what is the right way to do it and so forth. So I'll tell you what I know, and I think what the literature knows. But there is a lot that we don't know. And then there's, okay, how did I come up with these slides? How do I know what I will be telling you about? So one source of knowledge for me is that I'm a researcher, so I do my own research, and I'll show you a little bit of that. Another is that I read the research from other people, and I can make conclusions based on that. So that's my second source of knowledge. And my third one is because I've started a charity that supports talented kids in mathematics. And we work with organizations in developing countries that do that. So I've talked to head coaches and people who teach mathematics, and I see what they do to train very talented kids. So I also know some things from that kind of more practical experience. Okay, I'll start with this observation that I remember very well from my middle school teacher in mathematics. And this guy was teaching mathematics to kids like every day. He was saying, well, not everybody is equal in front of mathematics. And so he had this point from a practical perspective, but some kids find it easy to learn math, to do that, and others don't have the same kind of facility for mathematics. And it's interesting to think about exactly why there is this inequality. I think ultimately it comes down even to genes. I've looked into the literature whether if math ability can be predicted by genes. I was not hoping to talk about that, but it's quite complicated. But anyway, I think we can can agree with this observation, but some kids find it easier to kind of learn mathematics. And then in this talk, I want to talk a bit, well, if you're a kid like that, or if you have a kid like that, then there is a potential to learn mathematics at a more advanced level than the other kids, because this kid finds it easier to learn, right? As we have potential to learn more. So I want to talk first a little bit about whether he or she should kind of learn more, and then a bit about how one could do this. Before I go into the detail, there's some general observations. One is being good at math, I think, is a gift because when we're economists, my colleagues at CERGE-EI and me, and so we look at labor market and so forth. And I'll show you more evidence later, but you can earn substantial returns on the labor market if you are good at math, if you are good at math as a kid. And the fundamental reason is that there are many well-paid occupations where you need to be good at math to be able to enter that. And of course, an example is computer science. Like computer science, well, there's some coding, but also it's a lot of math behind it. And so you need to be good at math to become a computer scientist. Same with engineering, also a high-paid profession. In economics, we know well, actually, but to become a good economist, you need to be quite good at math. It's not enough to have kind of intuition, some kind of verbal reasoning, and so forth. And even in something like, okay, I'm going to take this example. I think maybe some psychologists in the room, I don't want to say wrong things, but I think in psychology, it's good to know some math because you're going to read statistical studies of, if you do research, you're going to look at associations between psychological traits and other things. And that's statistics, and statistics is math. So even there, you kind of may need or use some maths to do that. But while being good at math is a gift, it could also potentially be a burden. And this is not my area of expertise, but some things I kind of read and see from talking to people is kids who are very good at mathematics, they may be on average a bit more likely to have difficulty socializing or to be a bit more fragile psychologically. And I think there are reasons for that. One is, I think, not sure exactly about Czech Republic, but let's say it's in the US, if you are good at math, it's not kind of you're not the cool kid in the room. You have to be good at basketball or I don't know what, but being good at math is not associated with this. It's not perceived as cool among kids, I think, in many Western cultures. And that's why the kid with the most brilliant at math may not be the most appreciated by the other kids because there's no this appreciation for academic, for mathematics and even actually academic excellence, I think, speaking. Then another thing is that talented kids, sometimes they skip grades or they start school a bit earlier, so they may be in school with kids who are more mature than them, and so that can also kind of create some socialization problems. And also it can also happen that we know that kids who have autism often tend to be very good at some things, including math, okay, but there are also like some kind of challenges that come with that. So while I'm not an expert in any of these things, we should keep in mind kind of the psychological well-being of the kids, and there may be some special considerations for talented kids. Okay. So in the rest of the talk, I'll talk about three things. First, should your talented kids learn more math? Then how? And then I'll show you some results of research in progress that I'm doing with colleagues. So first I want to talk a bit more about this kind of labor market returns to mathematics. So this chart is from a very well-known paper by Hana Křepelková. It's mostly well-known for other things, not for this, but it's an interesting part of it. So what they're showing you there in the horizontal axis, you have the kindergarten test scores, and on the vertical axis, you have the mean earnings. So you can see that kids with kindergarten of better grades earn higher earnings later in life. And actually, it's a lot higher, right? If you move, I don't know, from the 20 to 80% percentile, you move from 15K to 25K. So it's a big difference. Okay, now this is test scores in general, of which there are several components. I spent a long time searching for a variant of this graph that would disaggregate between math and reading. I didn't find it, but then I found related things. So this is data from the UK, the British cohort study. And here the distinguish, this is now test grades at age 10, and there's the distinguish between reading and math. On top. Okay, so to read this, so the variable is log earnings, and that's standard deviation in test score. So if you are one standard deviation higher in the test scores in reading, your earnings at age 20 are 6% higher, right? But if you are one standard deviation higher in math, your earnings at age 30 are 14% higher, right? So there's a bigger association between math test scores and earnings than between reading and earnings. And then here, this is again data from RSJ, a slightly different one, where they look at third grade math test scores. And the outcome now is not earnings, but is being in the top 1% of the income distribution. So it's being very successful financial in terms of income. Okay, and then again, math is more predictive of so one standard deviation in the math test scores increases the chance of being in the top 1% of income by about twice than the increase by the corresponding English score. Okay, so I've shown you these results. Economists would like to remind people that correlation is not causation. And so in this cartoon, you see the example of the storks bringing kids to larger houses. But of course, it's not because that the houses are larger, but there are more kids. It's because, well, if you have more kids, you have a higher, bigger house, right? Or you are wealthier and you have more kids. So anyway, the point is we are not sure about these correlations between math test scores and adult earnings is really the effect of earning more math. Okay, it could be a correlation like that. So it could be that the kids are better at math as kids, also better in other domains that are, so we have seen controlling for reading essentially change, but maybe there are better other things, or maybe they come from families that are socially better connected, and that gives an advantage to the labor market. So what I've shown you is not necessarily proof that mathematics, knowing more math kind of helps you on the labor market. So I've also looked at studies that looked specifically at whether learning more math kind of improves your earnings in adulthood. And it's kind of not easy to do this type of studies because if you compare kids who take more math courses to those who take less, there is a selection problem here. The kids who do more math courses are those who like math, and so it's become difficult to distinguish just kind of this intrinsic interest in mathematics versus really the effect of the course itself. So some studies that address this problem, one of the most well-known is by Goodman. And what he did is that he looked at kind of in the US, changes across states in high school math requirements. So essentially, it's forcing some kids to take an extra math course. And this was being adopted at different time in different states. So it's for some reason that have nothing to do with the particular kids, suddenly have to do an extra course in mathematics. And then the paper looks at what's the effect on labor, on the labor market. And he finds that being forced to take an additional math course increased earnings by around 10%. Okay, but for black students only, while students are not affected. So part of why students are not affected is was about taking these courses before anyway, while it's really the black students who are actually taking an extra course as a result of that. But that's a pattern that shows up in some other studies that I've looked at, where you find that learning more math for some kind of these exogenous reasons, it does help on the labor market, but not necessarily for all groups. And then, so just trying to conclude from this, well, as always, when you read studies, it gets a bit complicated. But overall, I think there are good reasons to think that learning more math will enhance the talented kids' career prospects. But apart from that, and it's something that has not really been studied well, I also believe that participating in activities where talented kids in math get to meet other kids who are also interested in math, actually I think it's also good for their psychological well-being because they meet kids who are like them, and having this community of like-minded peers, I think, is very important for these kids. Okay, so now that we have concluded that it might be a good idea for a talented kid to learn, who is interested in mathematics, to learn more mathematics, then we can think about how to do that. And it turns out that there are many different ways one could do this. So one could do this like first full-time or part of the time throughout the year, or maybe just a one-off thing. So there is a gradation in how much of the time is being spent, the kids will be spending doing that. And then these things could be in person or virtual. Okay, so there are many combinations. In general, probably in person is better for the socialization of the kids between themselves. So we know in general that in person is better for kind of motivation of students, persistence. And I'm sure Daniel and his colleagues are experts in all of that. So in person is better, but it can be more expensive to deliver than virtually. And also kids who may be in remote regions for which the in-person may not be necessarily a good solution. So there's potential also for virtual things. Now, what are these activities one could do? So you could, one option is that you go to a school that's a different curriculum and that's more specialized in mathematics, or you stay in the same school but you can skip a grade. Right? So that's some kind of full-time instruction, kind of in-person, where you learn more math. Kind of an easier version, less radical version is, okay, the kids stay at the same school, but they get some extra math classes, or they attend some extra math activities throughout the year, when we are in this scheduled year. Or you could send the kid to a math camp, where it's kind of a one-off event, perhaps in the summer, where they do kind of intense math for a particular period of time. And then there are the kind of virtual options. The one I will talk about later is kind of online courses. Out of them, solving is a particular provider of online courses. That's what the experiment will be about. So let me start first with grade skipping. So what's grade skipping? Well, it's an acceleration in the curriculum where the kid might skip a grade, or sometimes even more, and kind of go like 1 year, and skip a year of school, and start the schooling like, well, if a more advanced grade, if kind of having avoided that grade. There are quite a few kids who are known to have done this. Here on the right, you have two of the maybe most famous mathematicians of our days. Okay, on the left, you know who it is? Well, oh yeah, put the legend. Okay, it's Erdős. So Erdős was this legendary mathematician from Hungary, kind of extraterritorial generation, and he was this kind of really special character. Very interesting books about him. Okay, I could spend the talk talking just about him, but let's skip that. Anyway, he, among other things, he was very interested in young talented kids and mentoring them. And here is one of the kids he interacted with. And this is Terence Tao when he was 10. So Terence Tao is now the world's most recognized mathematician, extremely productive person, Fields Medal winner and so forth. But when he was a kid, he was already very special, and that's why I kind of talked to Erdős. Also, he participated in math competitions and so forth. Now, Terence Tao, he finished university at age 16, and he got his PhD at age 21. So to get your PhD at age 21, which is by the time that most people will start, right, college, he must have skipped a lot of grades. Of course, it's an example. One can find other example of these kids who have moved very fast through the curriculum. Okay, so, well, it's not then a good idea to do this grade skipping. There are some good things about grade skipping. One is it's very easy to do. From a school perspective, you just put the kid, you know, in a different class on the spreadsheet, and that's it, it's done. If there's no more cost, because you anyway have to educate the kids. Actually, you even save on cost because you spend less time educating as a kid. So it's kind of very cheap to do. Disadvantages? Well, there may be issues of socialization, maybe because the kid is leaving friends behind, or maybe you have to socialize with other kids, so it may be more difficult. You are skipping a grade, so you have not actually covered the material in that year. And maybe the student is very good in one subject, maybe not in others, and so it could create an imbalance. So that's kind of what I thought, basically just thinking about that, but then I tried to read some studies. One thing I found is that in the psychology literature, I mean, I do stand corrected, but it seems like there was no systematic evidence on this hypothesized negative effects of grade skipping. It's not clear that's actually problematic for the kids to do that. One thing that I found interesting is this kind of time-saving theory. And so, in general, okay, in economics of education, we think, okay, it's good for the kids to be in school, but while the kids are in school, they are not doing something else. And so, in schools, in the end, you are learning, but when you finish school, you can actually do things. You can start businesses, you can I don't know, maybe write papers, do different things. And so if you skip grades, you spend less time in school, but if you still learn the material, then it means you start producing at an earlier age, and then you have more of your active life to actually do other things. And this paper found that kids who skip a grade are more likely to get a PhD, produce more patents, and highly cited publications. So these kids produce more. Okay, but the question is compared to what, right? So in that paper, it's compared to other kids that had similar academic achievements at the age at which they so the skippers and non-skippers before skipping, they were comparable in terms of grades. And those that skipped then had produced more in their careers. Now you might think, well, maybe one should not just look at kids who had comparable academic achievements, because those who skip, maybe they're also more ready psychology to skip, so maybe it's not a perfect study, but I found this interesting. Okay, now another thing apart from skipping a grade is to go to a school that's more specialized. And if you go to specialized schools, well, first of all, you're going to have academically stronger peers because these schools are selective in who they take in. But also they may offer more advanced curriculum or a curriculum that offer more math. Then the one issue with schools is sometimes they may be expensive to attend, and so maybe not everybody can go. And then also the issue is, especially schools, it can be nice if you are in a city where there is one, but if you are from a village in the countryside, then we are talking here about the kid having to live on a boarding basis in the school, or, well, I mean, in general, there's going to be an access problem potentially there. So let me mention two schools like that. One is the Skomaroy School in Georgia. And this is a school where there's a competitive entrance exam. They take about 200 kids per year, because it's well recognized as kind of the prestigious high school or the school to go if you're good in mathematics. Kind of all the kids who are inclined to learn mathematics kind of go there and or try to go there, let's say. One thing that's nice about it is that it's a public school, so it's not expensive. And there is an option to reside in the school. So if you are from a village, it doesn't matter if you're far from Tbilisi, you have the option to attend and stay in the school. So that's one school like that. Here is another model, sample in London. There's are these small classrooms. The staff is very qualified, very attentive, a lot of academic enrichment activities, but it's also £30,000 per year, which is £1 million, right, per year, a tuition. So, and UK is not actually a rich country, despite what one might think. So actually, it's very, it's really for some kids, and there are a few bursaries, but not a lot, right? So this can be quite, it's quite different model from Komarov. Okay, so now, if you are not an expert, you might think, well, it's obvious that going to a better school should help the kid get a better academic performance. But actually, in the literature, is not that simple. So there's a famous study by Joshua Engrist, who looked at these selective high school in Boston, elite high school in Boston, New York. And then to get in, you need to pass an exam, and it compares the kids who just made it versus who just didn't. And they find no effect of going to the better school. And they call the paper the elite illusion, okay? But actually going to better school was not helping non-scale. But another famous study, but comparisons in Korea, they look at the effect of going to better school in Romania, okay? And actually there's a find that going to better school improve performance. But as part of it, they also document what they call the behavioral responses. One is parents reduce effort when the children attend another school. Another one is children who make it into more selective school realize they're relatively weaker and marginalized. Maybe not all of them, some, right? So once we see these things, we can understand a bit better why in the first studies we didn't necessarily find an effect of going to better schools, which there may be sometimes some countervailing effect where, yes, we go to better school, but then some other things are happening that may counteract. And then I should mention a different or related intervention that has been studied by a famous economist, Patrick Gaule, where they looked at schools that were creating classrooms for talented kids. So if a school had enough talented kids, they would put them all in a special classroom together, okay? And they did find that this led to significant gains in reading and mathematics. Again, not for all students, but it's concentrated among lower income and Black and Hispanic students. Okay, so moving along, another way to kind of learn more math is not to do like full-time, go to different school, different grade, but to do a bit of more math in addition to what you normally get, but not on a full-time basis. So sometimes there are these math circles. So these are kind of a club that meets maybe every week, and the students solve problems together during their time, and maybe they take some problem home, and they come back next week. So it's a bit like going to a chess club, right? You go to the kind of math problem solving club, but also has the advantage that the kids, they go there, they find kids like them who can do that. This type of activities is very reliant on having a teacher who is really dedicated to running this. I kind of meant to look up if there's of math circles in Prague. I don't know actually, but maybe some people in the audience might know. Sometimes universities offer this for high school students. So you can go like on Saturday, maybe you go to the university just for this extra kind of activity. We don't know if this is effective or not. Also meant to talk about this paper. This is well, not really a math circle because it's more like a course, but essentially it was a policy where kids who are below a certain grade level, achievement level, were forced to take an extra math course. So it's kind of double dose of algebra. So students who do well, they do one course of algebra, but those who are below a certain threshold have to do two. Okay, so and it's a double dose of algebra. So this is not necessarily really for the most talented kids, but it's just kind of informative about just getting more math. It just makes life worse. And they did find an effect of that on being more likely to enroll in college. So on this side, you have the kids who go to double dose, and then on this side, you go to single dose of algebra. And of course, here you have the scores before they took these things. So of course, like the higher the score here, in general, the more likely you are to enroll in college. But if you go to double dose, there's this little jump here. Okay, then I should also mention tutoring. Again, it's something we know very little about, but something definitely happens a lot in practice. So tutoring involves like basically hiring a person, who could be a teacher or an advanced student, you teach to your kid, and typically that would involve, typically you have to pay for that, you pay the person, right? So maybe if you have a talented high school kid, maybe you find a student at university who would be willing to spend like a couple of hours per week helping that student in mathematics. Often that's thought to be like, often that happens for kids who tend to struggle in school, but in the same way, you could have tutoring for high achieving kids in order to learn more math, to prepare them for competitions and so forth. And especially in some developing countries, there is a lot of that going on. And actually, the only way to become really good at math is actually to hire a tutor, because in your school, you're not going to be provided with the resources to otherwise learn it. Because we are talking about kind of having to pay these tutors right away, there is a potential like socioeconomic inequality that can be generated, because not everybody can afford to have a tutor and so forth. However, in some places there are charities that run tutoring for free for students who want it. And in the UK, there's the UK Mathematical Trust. They run a program like that, where you have small groups of disadvantaged kids are tutored by school teachers who volunteer their time to do that. I tried to talk the Mathematical Trust into running an experiment where they would randomize who gets the tutoring. But so far, not successfully. So far, we don't know if it works, right? And then to talk about camps. So camps is like in-person activity, but for a limited period of time. There are a lot of them. If you are one of the top Czech students in a country, and pretty sure in Czech Republic will be the same, if you are among the top ones, you will be invited by a camp that's run by the national kind of Olympian organization. Well, of course, you have to kind of go there, get there in the first place, and so you have to learn before being eligible for that. In the US, I have a lot of camps, often by private providers. One of the most famous ones is Promise. It's 6 weeks of mathematics, and it's free if you can't afford it. It's highly selective, so in order to get in, you have to write lots and lots of homework, by the stand and so forth. But then it's like very good alumni. I mean, the kids are very happy when they go there. We try to talk to them in making a comparison between kids who were in and those who almost did not make it, or did not make it, but were almost as good as those who did make it. Again, it's an ongoing effort, so we don't know if it's effective or not, this particular camp or camps more generally. Okay, so far, we are running a bit low on time. But anyway, just say, okay, talented kids can know more mathematics when they are offered the opportunity, and maybe they can make friends by doing that. There are many different ways of doing it, but not a lot of systematic evidence on the relative effectiveness. And then I have this concern about the talented kids who may be from a village or from a poor families who may not have access to these enrichment activities. And then in the final maybe 5 minutes, I'll tell you about research in progress where we ask whether virtual training can help nurture talent. So of course, in the internet, there are many resources that are available online. In particular, there are dedicated online courses. As I said, there are issues with these in terms of student engagement, socialization, but this is something you can do even if you're in village. even if you're in a place that doesn't have good teachers, so it can be much more democratic in principle than some of the in-person activities. Also, if you think about kind of financing these activities from the state or from a public perspective, the cost of doing that is much cheaper because you hire one teacher who can then teach a lot of kids in different locations. You don't have to worry about taking the school by bus to a school or anything like that, right? And feeding them. One prominent provider of the online courses is Art of Consulting. It's educational. It's a firm specialized in the provision of online education. They have books, online courses, but have a very specific focus on talented kids. So the material that they propose is not for people like me who are not very good at math. It's for people who are actually very good at math or very keen to learn. These are, even though the topics are kind of elementary in a way, the problems the kids are being challenged to solve are part of that are quite advanced, okay? And in the US, that's the kind of main source of most kids who have done well in the American math competitions. They go through these things and they learn a lot from it. And the courses are very serious, right? It's like 4 months, every week you have the online, online interactive session, and all homework to do. Okay, now one challenge is that it's kind of expensive. It's like $500 for a course. And also, it typically tends to run at, let's say, 6 p.m. Eastern time, which is noon in midnight in the Czech Republic, so it's not very friendly to Europeans, right? So it's really kind of, not very friendly to, so far they have a big focus on US, let's say. Okay, so now one of the charities that I co-founded, Global Talent Network, runs the STAR program. So in the STAR program, we have several objectives. We want to identify very talented kids. We want to recognize them, encourage them, and also we want to give them the chance to learn. If they're motivated, that we can learn like from a very good resource, but otherwise might be unable to attend. And so we recruit kids to that. I'll tell you how. So once we can recruit them and enroll them, the participants enter a lottery, where half of them receive access to a course from Art of Consulting, and the other half they receive a book instead. And this lottery kind of setup helps us kind of determine if the course itself fully helps the kid learn or not. So in this STAR program, last year was the first year we're running it. We have participants from 40 countries, around 500 students. In each of the countries, the students we have are recommended by the national association. So we are talking about the top 20, 30 kids in a country. And we had some kids from the Czech Republic. Okay, and then those who get the course, they get this course in combinatorics. Very difficult, I don't understand anything. And they get this weekly session, 90 minutes, where it's text-based, interactive learning, but a lot of homework. And then the control group, they receive a book instead. We think the book not helping the students much, so but at least they are getting something out of that. And then after people have done the course, or after they read the book, or while the others are doing the course, after the other treatment group has done the course, we invite them to a final test to measure the learning, and participation in the final test is incentivized. So there are cash prizes available for the top fellow participants, quite significant, also because that we want to recognize the kids and give them an encouragement and also kind of help them. And then we also have number of smaller prizes available on a lottery basis. And for now, we're looking at whether being randomized into getting a course helps students kind of learn more math. And then later on, we might look at some other things, including studying abroad and so forth. And I promise I'm almost done. So what do we find? So it's preliminary because the thing is still in progress. We have one group of students that's being trained now, and another one that's starting in the summer. So far, we find that it seems like, let's say, being assigned to the treatment group, so being offered a course, increased performance by 0.2 standard deviation in the final test. So it does help kids learn more math, but not necessarily a huge effect. It's something we can discuss. As I said, it's very much work in progress. It's a very preliminary results. Okay, so we're running out of time here. So let me just say that being learning mathematics is good. Both child carries prospects, but also for socialization. These are like mathematics or fine kids, but one like them. Many ways to learn. We don't really know which one work better. There can be a role for the state or for philanthropy to ensure that kids from disadvantaged background or from rural regions also have the opportunity to be found or nurtured. And the primary RSJ results suggest virtual courses can facilitate the learning.
Thank you very much. Before I open question and answer sections, let me note, you noted it already, that Patrick is mixing the expertise of scientists in economics. So he ran hundreds, thousands of regressions and trying to identify causal impacts. And at the same time, he is intensively involved in this project. He can tell you more about if you ask him now. And this is very similar to what we plan to do in our new project. We will inform you about, simply to subject the effort to help give the children to subject it to intensive research, simply to understand and know whether we really help them or not, or even worse, whether we hurt them. So now time is for questions and answers. As I said, I will give preference to those who are here in person. So
that's a very good question. So in your experiment, in your study experiment, did you actually ask the children who in the lottery received the book, whether they read the book, whether they studied, maybe to try to make up for the course? Because that may be driving your less strong result.
Yeah, we don't have usage on the books. Because the books are online, there may be a way to do it. We don't know. I mean, another issue I didn't have time to talk about is among the kids that were offered the course, or some were enrolled, but then they didn't do much. Okay, so the results is being done to treat, but then we have a complier, so the actual effect of the course is larger than that, and that's something we'll look at in more detail in the paper.
Yep. Do the researches that you mentioned include some kind of metacognition or meta-reflection of the children, meaning them reflecting upon their learning, or just results from the math tests?
In the studies I've talked about, or
yours too?
There may be studies like that, but I'm not very familiar with them. We did ask the students to reflect on their experiences. The challenge in doing that is you get some students who answer, and then a lot of them don't answer. And then we don't know. It's a bit like course evaluation, like if they come from a selected small set of students. But I think it can be definitely interesting, and we should do more of that. I'm also should read more about papers like that done by here.
That's first. And second,
is there any research on the gender differences in that? Because I could imagine that the ways how to encourage mathematically talented girls could be different from boys.
Yes. I think it's an important question. I'm not sure how much research there is on that. I was talking with Alena at lunch about competitions in mathematics that are for girls only. And there are competitions like that, including at the international level. I think this can be a good thing, because one thing that happens is the kids go to the competitions, they find these like-minded peers. But if you're a girl and you go to a competition like that, you'll find many others are boys, and that you don't get the same socialization, or can be discouraging. One of these female-only competitions where now everybody is also kind of a girl interested in mathematics around you, and that can be encouraging for the students. So I think it's a great question, but we don't have a lot of answers yet.
And in your STAR project, do you distinguish the gender, or do you look at gender differences?
Right. So we have 30% of girls, which is higher than the normal share in competitions. And we can definitely look at our differential results by gender. In some developing countries, the parents may be more reluctant to let a girl than a boy go to some in-person events right outside home or a camp. So virtual education may be more beneficial potentially for girls. So that's something we can look at. Yeah.
Are there any studies already focusing on studying with artificial intelligence, like chatbots? Studying with artificial intelligence, AI as a tool.
I don't think so, not that I'm aware. There is, the most prestigious competition for students is this International Mathematical Olympiad. Currently, there is a prize going on, a contest, let's say, to have AI solve this type of problems. And there is I think, a $10 million prize for being able to perfectly solve VIMO problems. So that's currently ongoing. So we'll see if and when AI can solve these most difficult problems, which are kind of custom created for the MO. And then it could have implications for learning as well. Yeah, we have seen it in chess. For example, in chess, AI has become very good at playing chess. And now chess players are learning from how the AI is playing in order to put them on techniques. So no research yet, but definitely potential.
You have a question on the back line?
I'm not an expert in any, so I wonder, do you usually know it's about math or intelligence? There's two questions. So one is I select the smart kids, or then I train them in something that I think makes it better for them later in life. But do we really know it's math? Isn't it just like the results you've shown earlier were just like a math test? It could just be well correlated with IQ. And then we basically, the real task we should have in society is finding these people, and then training them on math doesn't matter. We could as well train them in whatever. We just want to find the smart people. So I wonder if we have any concept for all these things like they're actually math, or it would be very hard to disentangle, is it?
Right. Okay, so about identifying intelligent kids, we have a paper where it's in progress, where we looked at kids who have excelled in the international Olympiads in different domains. So with math, physics, chemistry, biology, informatics. Okay, so the kids who have excelled in all of these 5 competitions, when we look at who is winning scientific prizes later in their career. And the best predictor of winning a prize is the math Olympiad, followed by informatics and physics, kind of like math, or math adjacent, let's say, and biology and chemistry, no predictive power. Okay, so if there is something here that's somehow kind of math ability correlated with something that's kind of predictive of future excellence. But you're asking, okay, should we train them in math, right? That's a different issue. Some of the studies were okay. About the causal impact of giving more math to people, okay, there are some effects, but we should compare that to the causal effects of teaching them, I don't know, computer science or physics, and then this we don't know. Right? It's a good point, but specifically in the context of kids who are in high school, because they have to manage this transition to college, where being good at math helps you and then can help you with everything. I think there is a case for learning, let's say, math instead of biology when you are in your high school. But later on, what you do is a different issue after you are in university.
I feel that math has multiple use, while chemistry, if you are good in chemistry, you do just chemistry. I can be successful just in very narrow field. That's my feeling of it as a parent. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit more about the program? How big it is? How many Czechs approximately might be there? What is the social background, the age, and these things? Just to have a feeling of.
Yeah. So first year, around 500 students. For the Czech Republic, it's around 20. Often these kids are really the top in the country, in the National Olympiad. We can see from the names and so forth. In terms of age, typically 14 to 17, let's say, 14 to 18, a few younger students. And about 40% of girls, as I said, they mostly are from middle income or well-off families within the countries. Could also have some questions of the socioeconomic background.
Thanks. Next question.
Actually, it's also related a little bit to the age. I wanted to ask, from your experience, or maybe the studies that you came across, when do you think is a good time to start encourage the gifted children, because it seems that most of these programs or this whole support system is mainly targets older children, let's say 8+ and more. The children who are younger are completely excluded from this kind of means to be involved in it. I don't know if you came across some studies or in your personal opinion, but when do you think is a good time to start? From the point of parent or school, maybe in kindergarten?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the people we have in our program are those that have excelled in the mathematics competition. And we ask them, at what age did you start competing in competition? So in these national competitions. And most of them, it was like 10, 11, 10 or younger. So if your goal is to go to the International Math Olympiad, if you are still 15, 16, you're not going to start when it's over. You need to start at 9, 10. And that's the realization is you want these people who kind of if you want to be truly excellent at age 18, 19, you need to start early. I don't know how early, but definitely in middle school. But of course, I mean, this is to be medalist at the International Olympiad. It's not by itself something we necessarily care a lot about, right? The more general question, when should the kids more math at 15, at 12? We don't have a lot of answers. We don't know, I think. If it's like for like career prospects and so forth. But if we're talking about excellence in competitions, yeah, you need to start early.
So let's say one or two more questions.
I just wanted to ask if those students from the Czech Republic in the program, are they required to speak English? And in general, overall, with these programs, is it only accessible through speaking English, or do speakers of different languages also have access to?
Yeah, so the program is delivered in English, but it's all kind of text-based. So the students, they don't need to listen, they don't need to talk. They could use Google Translate. So I think you can benefit from this even if you're not a proficient, a fluent speaker. You don't need necessarily that level, but it is a barrier for some kids. We discuss with our partners. They are kind of using AI actually to translate all the materials into Spanish for a lot of Spanish students. So for now, it's all in English, but it can be a barrier, of course.
Okay, and last question from the audience.
Okay. Do you think there's enough research about the motivation of the children towards math, and how does that affect their participation, and maybe some key findings if there is?
Okay, well, if you ask a researcher if there is enough research, they will always say no, we need more research. On this particular topic, yes, it's a good point. I'm not sure we know that much, so it's useful to learn more.
Okay, so thank you again, Patrick, for your talk. Thank you very much. This is not the end, because we promised to tell you that we are going to launch a lot of research and other agendas to support gifted children here in the Czech Republic. So we will briefly, it will not take long, tell you about this. We have two presentations, and I noticed that our colleagues from Brno, at least one of them is listed there, Michal. I just want to mention, because I could forget, that they provide special, I would say rather unique testing to find out the gifted children and what kind of gifted children are there for parents and for teachers. So if you have questions, or if they think they can contribute at the end as a third contribution, they can. But first, I will ask Hana Křepelková from RSJ Foundation, RSJ in Czech, to tell us briefly and clearly about their effort.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope I will be loud enough to talk to all of you, even in the back seats. I would like to thank Alena, Daniel, Tomáš, Mirka for great cooperation so far. We also have a chance finally to meet with Patrick in person, which is great because we've met online before. And I see one very crucial, and I'll try to be brief, even though some of your questions were extremely relevant to what we are trying to do. But anyway, I see a very crucial link between your work and our approach. And to say it very briefly, it's the need to support the gifted children. They need to be supported in a number of ways. we have to explore those ways much further. It's very important. We do not know our society, but also other countries. We do not know that much about it, it's true. So more research needs to be done, but also we have to learn from the field, from the experiences of the teachers, for example, teachers. What we have to say is that the intellectual potential can be fulfilled only under certain conditions, and we have to learn much more about those conditions. It just doesn't happen as some kind of automatic process. It's not like that. We as a society have to understand why these kids need to be supported. So first I would like to extend the perspective offered here by Patrick a bit more and invite you to take a look on our approach. At first I'll say a few words about our foundation. This is our motto. We help think outside the box. That's one thing we like saying, and we like reminding ourselves throughout the process of our activities. We recognize that we have a responsibility for the society in which we live. That's why we want to encourage and support young people and educate them so that one day they will be able to take over this task from us. Just shortly, our values, they are responsibility, trust, freedom, and wisdom. Just very quickly, our principles, because mainly we are a foundation that supports NGOs and diverse initiatives. So our principles are partnership, individual approach, education and mentoring, creative thinking, independence, accountability and trust, sustainability and lasting impact. What I would like to maybe add, so you understand, a number of our founders and board members are also mathematicians. And they do not force us to bring immediate impact. We have a lot of freedom in going much deeper and think in long terms. So that is the freedom that we get, that we actually appreciate it a lot. Because we have a time to think about systemic changes, not about immediate results from our activities. Okay. These are the main areas of focus. I would like to just point at the... Okay, gifted children, that's actually the biggest area where we actually put most of our financing. And if we would have a look at it as a structure, the gifted children area would be on the top, but underneath there would be financing of NGOs and diverse initiatives that focus on systemic change in our education system and also mental health, because these two parts are actually key to changing anything regarding the support of gifted children. That's what we believe in, and that's what our experience shows us. We also are active in philanthropy, academic excellence. That's actually the area that was partially supporting some of the activities of CERGE-EI in the past for several years. And we also focus on employee giving, because the idea of philanthropy and giving back to the society is something what is important to us. Now let's go to the gifted children. We use rather the term of gifted, not talented, because, but I'll be short, so I'm not going into that debate. Anyway, the gifted children. And we try to ensure that gifted children live meaningful and fulfilled lives. To do this, we must embrace them in their difference, understand their specific needs, and meet those needs. It's very crucial for us to understand that it's a group of children with specific needs, and we do not as a society very much understand those needs, and it's important to go much deeper into that. Say a few words later about it. We feel that gifted children automatically have a better chance of finding their place and succeeding. We assume as a society that they can cope with obstacles more easily, that they can simply see their abilities and use them to live a meaningful life and enrich us all. But this is a myth, and experience shows otherwise. The range of manifestations of gifted children is wide, and only a certain percentage of them meet the idea of well-socialized and active straight-A students. On the other hand, a significant proportion of gifted children face specific problems at school. Patrick was mentioning some of them, social emotional problems, and I'll mention a few more, which then affect them negatively throughout their lives. As a result, our society loses out. So that's why we are changing the way we view the gifted, and we are striving for systemic change. Why? Because as I was mentioning, without understanding the gifted children better, much deeper, we would not be able to design any specific and good politics towards the gifted children. So this is the kind of base thing that we have to focus on, and afterwards we can set some strategic goals that we've set for ourselves, and we are now about to slowly fulfill them. We have like 10, 20, 30 years as we have the freedom of react very flexibly on the ways society changes and so on. So maybe before I go to the strategic goals, I'll just mention some of the problems because it's important to be specific. One of the problems that can occur is, for example, the twice exceptional children. Those are the kids that might be extremely bright at certain intellectual areas, but, for example, they have a dyslexia, dysgraphia. At schools, they are not recognized. The teachers would not understand that there's some gift in there, that they have some gifts, and very often those kids are not challenged intellectually properly. Very often the schools focus on the handicap, not on the strengths. That's one of the things. Sometimes, and it's not that unusual, these kids and the students have a synchronous development, so intellectually they're ahead, but emotionally, as they deal with the very complex issues, they think about very complex issues rationally. They cannot cope with those issues emotionally. It's a very common problem, and on a social emotional level, these children need the support, but not only the support as an average kid, but they need the support of someone who understands those specific issues. Also, the kids need to be intellectually challenged. That's what Patrick was mentioning a number of times. I can just say one of the small examples, but there's a variety of them. Once there is someone who doesn't have dyslexia, is not doesn't have an asynchronous development, but for example at school this child is not challenged enough, then the student goes to the university and there's the first challenge he or she meets. And sometimes those students just drop out because they do not know how to work with the challenges. So these are examples from from the field, from the practitioners, from the teachers, or from the psychologists. So I'll just briefly go through our strategic goals. We are committed to ensuring that gifted children have access to all support measures at schools. Now I'm talking about elementary schools. At this moment, the gifted children can only apply for material support measures such as microscope. What they really need is a mentoring. What they really need is sometimes even the social emotional support and so on. So there is a variety of needs that these children have, and we do not understand it as schools or the counselors. We support the development of training programs for teachers. You probably understand why not only the students but also the teachers who've been teaching for several years or decades. We support the development and dissemination of the in-linear screening identification system. Daniel was mentioning this screening identification system. Please, if you are this leaflet or have a look online in linear screening identification system. It's something what is developed by Šárka Portešová, Michal Jaburek, Ondra Straka in Brno at Masaryk University, and it's so far we haven't found abroad on the international level such a system. It's based on a video game, but it's also based, well, that's the form, but it's based on CHC theory of intelligence, which can depict the areas of intelligence quite nicely. So actually the parents would then get a paper of recommendations to what areas they should focus, not only them, but also the teachers. So, and the idea is to focus on the strong fields, on the strength, rather than to compensate the weaknesses. So please find it online and help us to spread the word about this great system. Also, we co-founded and support Invinio, National Center for Support of Giftedness, which is freshly launched organization which is run by this Brno team by Šárka Portešová. They're just hiring the team and will be working on the first website and so on. So they're about to launch their complex services for gifted children. Here's what we'll probably hear a few more words about it. So this is our opportunity here is to meet Patrick. It's actually framed by Talent Project. Some years ago we asked Danielle and then Alena whether they would be willing to explore some of our questions regarding rather the socioeconomic context of giftedness, and as they said, yes, we are here and we have a chance to work with Tomáš and Mirka, and we are very excited to see what the results will be seeing in the future. We provide a financial and mentoring support to organizations that support gifted children. This is actually the core of our activities in the other areas, but here it's very important because that's how we started. We started to support external NGOs, and then we realized that we would be making some more active steps. But of course, we still provide the NGOs that are active in our field. We actually also link them as we believe that any systemic change can take place only if all of the stakeholders are properly linked and if they aim their goals together. We share international expertise and information from world conferences, and we raise awareness among the general public and open the topic of giftedness with stakeholders in education and mental health. The awareness raising campaigns are extremely important. As I was mentioning, the myths and misconceptions, they are widespread in our country, but everywhere else. It's somehow natural to think that gifted children do need support, and we have to break down this myth over and over. And back. And one more thing which is quite important is we also support the NGOs who are active in the systemic change of educational system. Those are also the stakeholders with whom we share the information about gifted children, so they incorporate this idea into their systemic thinking. And of course, mental health, number of gifted kids need to understand their emotions much better, of course, like everyone. But we do believe that this focus is very important, and also the practitioners in the mental health area need to understand the specific needs of the gifted children, which are already described by some experts. So, thank you very much for your attention.
So it was Hana Křepelková from RSJ Foundation, and now I will propose and agree at the same time that we leave the questions and answers to the very end. So I will welcome Alena Bičáková, who is a colleague of mine here at CERGE, leading research part of this agenda.
Okay, so if you want to support talented kids, or if you want to convince policymakers to support talented kids, you have to be able to identify who the talented kids are. You have to understand who they are, how many they are. Let's say we speak about a particular country, the country will be Czech Republic. And you have to know what are the obstacles that these talented kids face. You have to know what are the potential reasons why or which may prevent them from fully developing their talent, which may prevent them from being happy. Now, once you know that, you should be aware of a variety of interventions which are out there and which can be provided to these children. So how you could help them. So you should be able to you should know the interventions, but you should also be able to evaluate them. And we've heard from Patrick how difficult it is, and that even in, outside of the Czech Republic, the knowledge is quite limited. And you have to be able to compare and, let's say, to use and choose the most effective intervention. And then, based on all this information, you should be able to analyze this information and provide evidence and provide recommendations to the policymakers so that the policymakers can do evidence-based decisions and also design the policies accordingly, right? So basically what you have to do is you have to do research about talented children. And I think that this is exactly what was the inspiration for the birth of Talent, which is a joint project of IDEA think tank at CERGE-EI and RSJ Foundation. And that was the need for mapping the situation for research about talented kids and for understanding the situation here in the Czech Republic and trying to come up with the best policies. So what do we actually do, more specifically, what is our current agenda? So first of all, we don't want to rediscover things, we don't want to reinvent. So we learn from elsewhere. So what we do is we survey existing research, international research, mostly economic, about talented children and about gifted education. And we draw inspiration and draw information from there. Then we also learn from existing studies which evaluate existing interventions that support talented kids. But again, referring to Patrick's question, even the studies that he mentioned with a very specific focus, the results are unclear. Many times the impact of intervention, the last point on the slides was the impact is unclear, right? So this is a very challenging thing. Still, it's definitely very important to be at least aware of the results from other countries. Then we definitely want to map the situation of talented kids here in this country. So we want to inspect the official statistics. We want to know who are the talented kids, so who are the ones which are reported as being talented in this country, how many are they, and what's being done to support these children. And we want to compare this official statistic with whatever data we can get at, whatever data there exists. So there are actually surveys, representative surveys, where we can, as I'll show you later, to some extent identify talent as well, so that we can compare, we can try to see who are the talented kids and what's their situation in the Czech Republic. And finally, going back to Invenio, which is something which has been already mentioned, we plan to analyze data from this testing Invenio testing. So this video game testing, I think they already have several thousand children tested, and we already have an agreement with this group of psychologists or researchers in Brno at Münich to actually analyze this data and to work on this data. We are looking forward to do it, and based on this data, we hope to find out more about the children in the Czech Republic. So to give you at least some flavor of what we do and also to show you some of the most striking discoveries, so based on survey data, so it's a representative sample of over 7,000 students in the Czech Republic, where we are able to identify quantitative talent. So based on test scores, we are able to identify children who are quantitatively talented. Based on this data, we estimate there's about 12.6% of quantitatively talented kids in the Czech Republic. There are talented or gifted and highly gifted. And you can see that the gender composition is actually fairly balanced. So you see that among the talented, there's about half of, or there's basically half of girls, and among the highly talented, there's still a fairly good gender balance, but there's about 40% of girls there. Now, when we look at the official statistics, and these statistics come from reports that the elementary school submit to the Ministry of Education. So this comes from the Excel sheets where the school reports how many children there are and also how many talented children there are. So the first thing that we see is that the share of children who are reported as being talented is smaller, and this is for the past 7 years. So this is like a permanent, systematic situation that we have in the official statistics. The share of children is smaller than 0.5% compared to the 12.6% that we find in our survey data. Now here, these are children of any age, and these are also any talents. It doesn't say this is cognitive talents, although it's probably based on IQ test or whatever the schools use to report talented children. So we see that there's very serious underreporting in terms of like officially, children who are officially recognized as talented children in this country. Now, when we look at the gender composition, what you see is that actually there is much less girls recognized and reported as talented. So there's serious reporting, and especially among girls. So based on the comparison of this survey data and this official statistics, basically we conclude that there are really a lot of talented children, especially talented girls, which are not identified in this country, which we don't know of. Okay. Another relatively striking feature that we find based on the survey data is that there's a big gap in the Czech Republic, bigger than in other countries, between talented children or share of talented children among families with highly educated parents and among families with less educated parents. So basically, if your parents have a university degree, or if at least one of your parents has a university degree, you are much more likely to be talented than if this is not the case. So this is 25% probability versus 7%. Now the gap is bigger than in other countries. So the question is this really genes? Or is it the case that actually the children from the more disadvantaged families face certain obstacles that prevent them from being able to manifest their talent? So, some facts about talent. So talent was established in the spring of 2023. This was really the very beginning. It's part of the IDEA think tank. So it's also part of its production, which means that all our findings will be published in the form of IDEA studies, that we will organize all kind of roundtables or discussions, that we organize public lectures, invite speakers like Patrick. So this is the first big event that talent organizes. Now, in terms of the composition, so in terms of academic researchers from CERGE-EI that are part of the talent, so it's Daniel and me, and then it's Mirka Federičová, who is the expert on the survey data, who analyzed the PISA and TIMSS, and Tomáš Pletivický, who devotes his time to the studies that evaluate interventions and also to the official statistics. So basically what I showed. So that's what Tomáš produced. We cooperate with the group of the researchers in psychology in Brno at Münich, who are actually also the ones who invented this video game that helps identify talented kids, and who are part of this National Center of the Support of Talent. So it's Šárka Pontešová, it's Michal Jabure, who is online or connected, so maybe you can have also questions on him and on Straka. And we also closely cooperate with the RSJ Foundation team. We have regular meetings, we get feedback from them, we try to explain them, our findings, our results, and of course we use their networks they help us disseminate whatever we find. So in terms of the nearest future, what you can be looking forward to, there should be, or even before summer, there should be an idea study which will summarize the existing research on talented children and gifted education. So this will be a shorter summary in Czech of a very long critical literature review, which is now ready. Then there will be another study which will basically compare and assess the existing papers that try to evaluate various interventions supporting gifted children. Then there will be probably a series by the end of the year, of idea studies based on this survey data. So not only trying to understand who are the talented kids and what are their characteristics, but basically this PISA data should also allow us to correlate it or to link it to teaching methods that the professors of these talented kids use, and also to the grades. So there will be a series of studies there. And finally, there will be also a study which basically will use these official statistics from these official reports from elementary schools to the Ministry of Education, also probably also from the psychological and pedagogical advisory units, again reporting talented kids, and try to map what are the numbers that actually the only numbers accessible about the officially reported talented kids that we have, and what can and what cannot be learned from these statistics, and especially in comparison with the information or with the findings based on the analysis of the survey data that we have. So this is it about talent. So I know that Mirka and Tomáš, we are very happy to have them as part of our team. We plan to expand. So we hope to have yet another researcher to help us continue in those endeavors.
Thank you very much to Patrick Gaule, who came here from the University of Bristol. Thank you very much.